Deputy McGrath, you have 10 minutes.
First of all, Kate Dulce, one of my wakers ago, done Cooper dinner. That's Breen O'Donnell, our research and policy advisor, did my raid and Councillor Mattie McGrath in my own office and for putting together the motion. I want to thank Minister Michael McGrath for staying as long as he could. He had another engagement and he apologised before he left. And thank Minister Smith. But I have to contradict you, Minister Smith. You said there that local councils were the authors of the county development plan. They used to be. Cardigan and faster gone I made. They used to be, but no longer. And we heard a letter read out from a disgraceful letter read out from Deputy Murphy about the attitude and the powers that you've given to the office of the planning regulator. So we have to do a lot of rethinking, because we in the Rural Independent Group will be forced to take a legal challenge if this isn't recognised. And I'm very disappointed that the government are not accepting the good intent of the motion, and they put down amendments, which is a bit ridiculous. The motion calls for the state that there's a chronic under-investment in infrastructure across rural Ireland, which now jeopardises and undermines the proposals for post-pandemic recovery in these areas. The motion calls on the government to recognise the tremendous opportunities for remote working and rural living highlighted by the pandemic, and urgently review the draconian planning restrictions on rural one-off housing contained within the National Planning Framework, as it is prohibiting rural people from being able to build their own homes in their areas, which will lead to a heightened rural depopulation. That's the basic facts. That's happening in the last 10 years. I know honest planners and good planners, and are telling councils now, senior planners, if you want to get planning in rural Ireland or you know anybody, get it in fast, because in 18 months' time it'll be a no-go area. And that is shocking. The challenges. There are many challenges, but Irish water is a huge challenge. Irish water and a lack of investment is resulting in the urgent need for villages and towns to have upgraded wastewater treatment plants across the country. Across my county in Tipperary, there's dozens of villages. I'll name a few, including my own in Coshna Kilsheelan, Clough-Jordan, and indeed Burncourt, areas like that, Lisbon, indeed Dundrum, Kilross, Dunaskey, they're all there, including Golden, and indeed Clough-Jordan up in the north of the county. So right from the bottom of the county up to the north, their needs are there. And nobody can build, other speakers have highlighted this, unless there's capacity in the systems. And Irish Water are due to be, the contract runs out in a year's time. So what's going to happen post that contract, or what contract? And remember, the county councils, what's going on at the moment, won't have any say with Irish Water when the staff are transposed over. Many of them don't want to go, but they'll be forced to go. It looks like this. Where's the democracy? Where's the rights? Within the changes coming to our county development plan in Tipperary, and same everywhere, and increasing difficulties with one-off rural housing, there will be little opportunity for people to continue to live or return to the countryside. We can't live or get planning permission in the countryside, and that is not acceptable, because it is just shocking. Irish Water didn't have a mad proposal. And I'm shocked with you as a Green Minister and Minister Roderick O'Gorman came in to reply at here recently a topical issue, thanks to Councillor, about the madness to stop that pipe coming from through Tipperary right up to Dublin, to pump water all that distance, and to put a pipe that's higher than me standing inside it, and the disruption that will do to the flora and fauna and the land and everything else, and into pipes that are leaking 60% of it here in Dublin. Sure, it's bananas. I mean, it's just lunacy. Instead of fixing the pipes, and we had a real opportunity to fix the pipes while the pandemic was on, because the traffic wasn't in the city. So it's shocking. And I mean, the National Planning Framework and the Office of the Planning Regulator dictate that local plans that were once at the behest of local councils, as you stated, Minister, most recently the Care Area Local Plan in my own town is currently undergoing change. And the OPR have recommended that the reduction of 50 hectares of the the residential zoning land down to 10 hectares. That will take away 40 hectares of it. It's madness. Extremely limiting towns like the thriving town of Care to develop. How will we create for increased numbers of people that we expect to remote work and work from home and working hubs. The Bank of Ireland is closing. I put forward a proposal. The Bank of Ireland is closing a stream of them. Mitchelstown right into Care, up to Cashel and on to Templemore and over. There's more, God knows. I'm asking the bank, the government, you have a 14% stake, to make them remote working hubs. There are officials working in the banks here in Dublin who can't live here with the cost of living. They'd love to go back from Tipperary, back to those banks. Let them do a couple of hours a day service to the public and then do the remote working from the bank buildings, many listed buildings and pristine buildings, and other councils. A senator I heard calling for the council to buy these banks. Why should they? The banks should be made keep their presence there. They are our customers. But no, that's not happening either. As I said, we have to make access to high-speed broadband a human right. We have to, because people are being dictated. It's a two-tier system. So the motion calls for all these issues that are there. In 2016, the United Nations stated that access to reliable broadband is a human right. If this is to be the case, we have utterly failed the people of rural Ireland. Utterly. And not only rural Ireland, but parts of Clonmel Town, parts of Neenah Town can't get broadband, just literally out on the outskirts. It also, as the motion, as the mid-term review of the National Development Plan is underway, it's timely that we throw out this 2040 plan before we have to go to the courts. We have got legal opinion, Deputy Richard, I don't know who got it, and indeed we're going back to a case, the most recent case, articles. The principles are being articulated in a similar case, Ryan versus the Attorney General in 1965, pages 294 and 312 and 313. And the case is clearly stated out there that none of the personal rights of the citizens are unlimited. Their exercise may be regulated by the Oireachtas when the common good requires this. The Oireachtas has to reconcile the exercise of the personal rights with the claims of the common good, and its decision on the reconciliation should prevail. So we have that. There's case law there. So we're dangerous ground here, and there will be dozens of cases, I'm sure, but we certainly aren't going to accept this. We cannot accept this, and we won't. So, as I said, we have huge challenges. We want to work with you. You're not the curl of the but you don't want to work. You have the green agenda here. We're all advanced in the green agenda. I raised something here yesterday that we want a sensible green agenda, that farmers have been scapegoated. Glanbia, with a company from a Dutch company, have a massive cheese processing plant to take the milk from all the farmers that have hugely invested all over Munster, indeed Deputy Nolan's constituency in Laois Offaly. And Antashka must be reined in out. They must be examined. Their role must be examined. They're holding up this. It went for planning, Waterford County Council. It went to Board Penala, and they got approval. And the farmers invested and got the money from the banks. And Chagas did it all out from them. Some of them invested millions. And with proper systems, with animal-friendly systems, and well cared for animals, animal welfare. And Antashka have it before the High Court a judicial review. The Taoiseach replied saying there are too many judicial reviews, but we have to look at the system of Antashka, bringing them. And we're told that they intend to go to the European Court, while farmers are at home now facing the prospect next year. They're high season, most of them are calf now, and the cows going out. It's wonderful to see the calves and the cows out in the young fresh grass. And they're going to have to go to, if it goes to Europe, we'll be back to quotas next year. They have banks to pay, they have families to feed and look after. That's going to be terrible destruction. That's that area. So there's no joined up thinking. Many members of Antashka are members of your party, Minister. And you have this ideology, which is grand and dandy, but it's causing havoc to business. We saw factories being run out of here by serial objectives, and we see a meat plant stopped down in Deputy Nolan's constituency. It's shocking. So we must have joined up thinking. We must have bodies like Antashka, but they have to live in the real world and understand that we have to be a God-given right and constitutional right to make a living. And that's been denied for us in the last 12 months, but it's going to be continually denied with these plans. I'm asking you, Minister, go back to the drawing board. I asked the Minister to stop that pipe, which is madness, total madness, projects like that. The Children's Hospital. Look at that runaway project. We have a road now. We want to develop a road from Limerick to Care, to connectivity in the cities, which are all about here, connecting Galway, Limerick, and indeed on to M8 and Care, Clockbreeder Junction, connectivity to Dublin, and to Cork, and then down to Waterford. You can all the ports of Galway, Fynes, Waterford, and indeed Rosslea. And that's a sensible project. And it could be developed at, roughly 3 billion. Whereas they want to go from Cork, Limerick to Cork, and from Cork to Waterford, costing 10.8 billion. Madness. So why can't we change and look at things? Big isn't wonderful. Deputy Minister McGrath said they got experts from all over the place to help them with these plans and the plans they're rolling out, but we need common sense. We have too many experts, as far as I'm concerned, but common sense is a scarce commodity at Count Corla, and it's a very important one. I know today is April's Fool's Day, it's the 1st of April, but my goodness, a lot of these announcements that you had again this week, you're rolling out announcements, not a penny of one to back them up. And it's all grand and grandiose plans. And I remember when Taoiseach Kinney went over to Dinamedi to launch a plan, I said it was like the Four Oaths, the song Four Oaths of Dinamedi, but there was not a penny. All fanfare and spin. We need to listen to our people. We need to allow our people to live with dignity. And we need to above all allow people that are not on the housing list. I don't want to be on the housing list because they want to have the wherewithal to build their own house and want to do that, and they can't get planning. That would take a big pressure, 20% of the wait list for houses, because they're forced then to go on list and they're renting at enormous rates. So we need joined up thinking. And I'm putting you on notice here, Minister, and you did call us the Regional Independent, which I'm disappointed with as well. We're the rural independent group, and we seem to be the only one. I'm fierce disappointed, Count Kohler. Carwell and Party Loch River, not one of them. There used to be a national party and a rural party. We had great men like Sean Tracy. You had Jack Wall in your own constituency, and we had many people. And Dan Spring, not even here for this debate. They're not here. They're on television morning, noon and night telling us what they're going to do. They could put men on the moon for you and take them off again, but they're not even here. And the lack of attendance by government backbenchers is staggering. We are much earlier than we thought we'd be. I understand I'm over time, Count Kohler, but look, the motion is sincere. We are sincere and we're very definite. And I pity the councillors now trying to do these plans with the regulator, this planning office, this planning regulator, and he's dictating 58-page letter to your council and the one he wrote to Wexford. That's outrageous. Someone called us that.
I'm looking forward to reading it.
We need to get back to reality here, and we need to. We're pushing this motion, and we're not accepting the government amendment.
Thank you very much.